Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a bracket. I'm Cody, that's Nick. And today, let's break this thing down. First, Nick, you were at the SEC championship the entire week. It was incredible, looked awesome. You got a lot of great content. We'll talk about that. Then we'll do first four, and then we'll talk about each region. We're not going to fill out a whole bracket. That's a fool's errand, but we'll talk about the games we're most excited to watch, who we think is going to come out of this, each region, biggest upsets, all of that good stuff. So, Nick, let's start. You got flown out by Southwest to watch the SEC championship in the full week. It looked incredible. I mean, it was awesome. So many great games.
Yeah. I mean, overall, like right now, my left ear has yet to pop back into place from the airplane, so I can't hear out of it. I can feel just my body from like Champ Week is such a busy week already. It's the vortex, right? There's so much going on every conference tournament. All these games, it's more chaotic than the first round of March Madness because there's like 5 times more games. So I'm trying to balance just being like, oh my God, we're in Nashville. First of all, that's awesome. Let's enjoy Nashville. Let's go watch all of these games because this is the best tournament ever, and we have free tickets. And the tickets were literally front row.
Oh, yeah, they were incredible.
The seats were the best seats in the house. So I was like, I have to go to literally all of these games because it would cost me $20,000 for these tickets. Why would I ever pass that up? It was just the balancing of like, well, when am I going to have time to make my own content because this is such a big week? And I think I just didn't sleep. We sleep in May, but I just didn't sleep and was overworked myself to where now today I'm like, oh my gosh, my body's a wreck. But again, we sleep in May, so we're powering through. And the trip itself was incredible, every aspect of it.
Hell yeah.
The only downfall is this moment, like how I feel today.
Look, you got one day, and then the play-in starts tomorrow.
No,
and
that's going to rejuvenate me.
We're rocking and rolling. So let's get into the play-in. All right. So let's start the play-in. First things first, Nick. North Carolina, I want to hear your thoughts because I think it's absolute fucking horseshit that they are in this tournament. I think it's terrible. I think the AD not answering any questions when he was asked about it. He's like, oh, I don't know. I can't say anything about North Carolina because I wasn't in the room for those discussions. Fuck you, buddy. That's like if you were the CEO's kid going in for a job interview and it's like, oh, well, my dad didn't interview me, so it's okay. You still have to hire the CEO's kid just because the CEO's not in the fucking room. I think it's ridiculous. But Nick, what are your thoughts? Does North Carolina belong or not?
Well, it's different because the committee chair is like a rotational thing. So the North Carolina AD, I think, is on the same level as all the other ADs that aren't the chair. It's kind of like it just kind of rotates around, and it just so happened to be the North Carolina guy. But I trust that he had no say there. But I do think that it's flawed. Like my final bracketology, which I'm not going to lie, I cooked. Think I'd be top 5.
You did.
I cooked. But 2 things that I had wrong were Texas and North Carolina I had on the outside. And I think that was just it was a 50-50 shot. Is the committee going to value the eye test and like your predictive metrics? Like, okay, is this team capable of beating, anyone in the tournament? And if the answer is yes, then they like that. Now with Texas, I don't know if I really even see that. I'm actually more upset about Texas, genuinely. I think North Carolina absolutely could make a Final Four with how they're playing right now. They're playing fantastic basketball. They just don't have the resume, so it's kind of it's messed up. Texas, I think that West Virginia should have absolutely been in over Texas or Xavier for that matter.
Yep. I agree 100%. But hey, it is what it is. This is what we have. So start with the first 4. Alabama State, St. Francis, I don't really know or care about either of those teams. I think they're going to get swamped either way. Same with American and Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's was the 6th seed in their conference tournament, ended up making a pretty cool Cinderella run to even get here.
I had them. I had Mount St. Mary's.
You did, which was it. I'll say it, Nick. You've been on fire lately. You've been on fire.
Wofford as well, which was cool because they were they were a 6 seed. So just sniping. I've been sniping, but no, I haven't been. I really haven't been that on fire. I blundered left and right at the SEC tournament trying to gamble on that. So actually, I had a down week, probably money wise, but whatever.
Yeah, but you were in the vortex, so it's fine.
Exactly, it's not my fault.
Yeah. So let's talk through. Let's do San Diego State, North Carolina first. I think North Carolina cooks in this game. They're gonna hear all of the shit being talked about them, but I do, like you said, the way that they've been playing basketball. They took Duke down to the wire in the ACC tournament. I like North Carolina against San Diego State. Give me the Tar Heels in that one.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. This is where I try to enter like the psyche of a North Carolina who hasn't won a quad one game since UCLA in the non-con. That's the only one they have. They've lost 13 of them. So San Diego State, which might not even be quad one, but like say it is, right? Say they're 50th or 49th on a neutral site. They're a tournament team. And if North Carolina can go beat a tournament team, then I think the confidence is going to shift in a way where they're already playing great ball, but now they have the belief like, all right, we can do it, dude. Like look in the mirror. We've been able to do it this whole time. Because part of me thinks that they just have a blockade a little bit. So many of their losses are by such narrow margins, including in the non-con to like Michigan State by 3, Kansas by 4, Florida by 5. So I think North Carolina winning this in a close battle, like proving that they could be down 1 with a minute left and pulling through. Maybe they don't even cover the spread. That's best case scenario. In that scenario, I take North Carolina very far. But if not, we'll have to see.
Yep. Don't hate that. And then Xavier, Texas. I think this is very much a case of Xavier's hot. I know Texas got the win against Texas A&M in the SEC tournament, but Xavier's been playing some pretty damn good basketball as of recent. So I will take Xavier in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a coaching battle in March, right? Like it's Rodney Terry versus Sean Miller. I'm just going to lean Sean Miller there pretty confidently. They're also playing in Ohio, which I believe is Xavier's right.
Yeah, Dayton's about an hour and a half from Xavier.
So I feel like it just kind of has to be Xavier.
Yep. Love it. All right, let's get to the first round. We'll start in the South region. Nick, why is Louisville an 8 seed? I just don't get it. I truthfully do not get it.
This was the biggest blunder I've ever seen. Like I'll never forget last year when everyone had Gonzaga and St. Mary's as like, 7s or 8s, and then they both got 5s, despite, just having probably worse resumes than they did this year. I'll never forget that. I'm probably going to try to work on a video about like the most shocking Selection Sunday committee surprises of all time. Louisville might be number 1 on that list. Like, I was thinking 5 seed confidently because they were, top 20 on Torvik, 11th in strength of record, top 20 in wins above bubble. A bunch of these stats where it's like, this is a 5 seed. This is a 5 seed. And then Clemson I had as a 4. I'm like, well, Louisville beat Clemson twice. Like, yeah, Clemson has the wins over Duke and Kentucky, but Louisville and Clemson feel like the same team to me. They feel like they're both good, strong 5 seeds. Clemson gets a 5, Louisville an 8. Is that really, like, you're going to put North Carolina in because they passed the eye test, right? But then you look at Louisville, you're like, well, they don't have any of those big wins. They're the same team as Clemson. They beat them twice. Like, looking at the analytics of it, Louisville's a 5. Looking with your eyes, Louisville's a 5. And I think they just were a product of, like, I don't know, like the committee was just like, oh well, they just don't have any big wins, and then they just didn't talk about it anymore. They were like, well, they're an 8, and everyone's like, okay, we don't care, all right, and they moved on without anyone challenging. That's dumb, shocking. They got it wrong.
Yep. And they got a tough matchup in Creighton with Ashworth and Kalkbrenner. I do think that Chucky Hepburn has a chance to put Ashworth in the fucking blender defensively. So could be interesting to see, but
It is
excited for that
also,
matchup.
it's the number 1 seed versus either the number 8 seed or the number 9 seed. So right off the bat, this was the first thing the committee showed us was that here's your number 1 overall team in the country in Auburn, which again, a lot of people were like, they should be a 2 seed. They've had that locked up for months.
Yeah.
Months. I said it every day. But it's like, here's your number 1 overall team, and they would play the team that's literally top 10 in the AP poll, or Creighton, who's the number 1 of all the 9 seeds. So it's really like the winner of like a 5 or 7 seed, and that sucks for Auburn because guess they'd have to play it in Lexington against Louisville.
Yeah. They could basically get a road game in their round of 32, which is tough.
Genuinely, everything else I'm not upset about from this entire thing outside of these first 3 that they released, or first 3 teams.
Yeah,
Everything else was like, oh, this is fine. Yeah, this is good. Crazy.
Yep. Michigan UC San Diego. That was a called shot from you a while back as well.
It was.
I'm in love with UC San Diego in this matchup. They do not turn the ball over and they force turnovers. Michigan turns the ball over. However, what scares me is this is without a doubt maybe going to be the most picked 12 seed of all time.
Yep.
Like I would be
honest to God,
I think it's gonna be like 40% of brackets, which is
I think
crazy.
Colorado State might beat that out at the rate that I'm seeing Colorado State be picked. Which is fair because they're -4. But UC San Diego's +2 or 2.5. So like, and if I'm being honest, I think they should be favored. I really, and I like remember in my video, I said this was from like mid-February, like best mid-major matchups. Like what mid-major team, like dream scenario on Selection Sunday, and UC San Diego got theirs. It was Michigan, who turns the ball over more than any Power 5 team. UC San Diego forces the most turnovers in the nation, and like I remember saying, I think UC San Diego would be -1 in this game.
You need to stitch that and give yourself a shout out on your called shot.
Well, I don't know if I need to stitch it just because it's getting repushed pretty aggressively right now. So everyone's like, yeah, everyone's like, oh my God, that's crazy that this is from February. You got it right. I'm like, yes, I did. But out of principle, I'm definitely taking UC San Diego because again of that video. But I do have a lot on the line with that one because if Michigan goes out and whoops ass, I just don't see that happening though. I don't see that being possible.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Texas Yale, kind of exciting. Nothing crazy about that one, really. I think Yale kind of drew a tough matchup there. Ole Miss and the winner of North Carolina, San Diego State. If that's North Carolina, I could see North Carolina ending up in the round of 32. One of those play-in teams, I think it's like 11 of the last 12 years or something like that. It's one of those March Madness stats that circulates. They make it to the round of 32 pretty much every year. Either Xavier or North Carolina are likely going to do that. Which one? I think North Carolina has a good shot against Ole Miss. Iowa State, love TJ Otzelberger hiding the injury news until after the selection is announced. Because I think they potentially could have dropped to a 4 seed. But hey, that's just good coaching. That's just good coaching. Can't fault the guy for playing the system.
I saw Arkansas did the same where they were like, oh, Boogie Flynn's, he's back. Like everyone's back. We're fully healthy. Where it's like, are they though? We don't.
Yeah.
I think they were just saying.
Yep. And then Marquette, New Mexico, Shaka Smart, Richard Pitino. That could be fun. And then Michigan State. So anything on the bottom side of the bracket that like I'm excited for Marquette, New Mexico here. But outside of that, doesn't really feel.
This is the region that I have literally like. If a police officer saw what I've done in this region, like I could go to jail probably. Like I have absolutely detonated reality here. I at one point tinkering my bracket had 1, 9, 12, 13, 11, 14, 10, and 15 winning. And was like, you know what? I can see it. I can see it.
This makes sense.
This, like, I kind of like it. Because I genuinely, over the past, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, Bryant and Michigan State's one of the hottest teams in the country. But Bryant's right there, dude. As far as like that's a tough draw. And Michigan State's a defensive oriented team. Those are the types of teams that like obviously Houston is just too physical to lose to like a 16 or whatever. But then you have your Alabamas, and I just don't think anyone can keep up with them. Right? Alabama could lose to like a team later on. They're not going to lose to a 15. Michigan State, this team, looking at it, especially with all the hype and the love and how hot they've been, and people are taking them to the Final Four and a bunch of brackets, I can so see this being a 2016 Middle Tennessee State where it's like, Michigan State, again, doesn't really have that many shooters. What if Jace Richardson just goes cold? They don't have that much size. Bryant's a good defensive team. Bryant's also very fast-paced. I don't know, man. Like, that is... I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I also think Lipscomb is cheeky, just because, again, that feels like that's a 4 versus 13, because Lipscomb was probably the top 14 seed for me. I would have had him as a 13 had Utah Valley beat Grand Canyon. And Iowa State was very hesitantly on the 3 line from a strength of record KPI standpoint. Like they like Texas A&M could have been a 3, Iowa State a 4. So I like Lipscomb as like a kind of a cheeky one there. I think the spread's very incorrect on that game. Like very incorrect.
Love it. All right. So if you had to give like your top 3 teams that you could see coming out of this region. In order, 1, 2, 3.
Auburn, and then let's go with Iowa State, just in the sense of like, okay, they did lose Keyshawn Gilbert. That might be like fade the public thinking that matters more than it does. TJ Otzelberger is a great coach. They have depth, and they fought on the road against Houston without Gilbert and Curtis Jones, I think. And they were down like 2 at Houston. So Iowa State, scrappy team, really well coached, could absolutely come out of this region. That's kind of a cheeky pick. And then I'm going to go UC San Diego.
I love it. If I had to go 1, 2, 3, I would go 1, Michigan State, 2, Auburn, and then 3, the winner of Louisville Creighton. I like this 8-9 matchup a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, moving to the West region. Florida is a fucking wagon, and they showed it in the SEC tournament. Absolutely, just an incredibly fun team to watch. UConn, your 2-time national champions, get the 8 seed here. Colorado State, who, Nick, you called that one, arguably the hottest team in the country, or one of. Drake, who has seemed to be everybody's sweetheart. Texas Tech, Kansas, and Arkansas, who between Coach Cal and Kansas, I think there are a lot of teams in this country who want both of these teams to lose. And then St. John's with the 2 seed against Omaha and their trash cans. Nick, what were your initial thoughts on the West?
Well, so in this region, in my bracketologies, I've had for a while, probably like 2 weeks, I had Kansas 7, Arkansas 10 playing each other, and then St. John's, Omaha in the bottom. So getting that exactly correct was cool. But also a lot of people were like, they'll never do that. They'll never have Self, Patino, and John, Calipari in the same pot. Like they just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of those 3 coaches are going to be left after the first weekend. Like, that's crazy.
It's just like, that's awesome. I think they would absolutely do that for tickets, ratings, everything. And they did. My other thing that came to mind was 2014, Florida, last time they got a 1 seed, they lost to UConn when UConn was a 7 seed. They could play in the second round. Florida won, UConn 8. Florida that year, undefeated in the SEC and won the SEC tournament. Literally 23-0 against SEC teams that year. And then they coasted to the Final Four, lost to a, not that good UConn team. It's Dan Hurley. Could something crazy happen? Yes. But Jeremiah Fears was also a dog, and UConn is concerning. Florida has so much height. So there's also Memphis, Colorado State is crazy because, again, Colorado State's favored as a 12 seed. I think they're going to be so heavily picked. And it almost is giving me like the New Mexico vibes last year where it's like Memphis they're due for a tourney win, tell you that much. Tough on that end. I think Grand Canyon could give Maryland a lot of problems. I'm kind of down on the Big Ten. I love Drake. Love them. But I am worried. I don't know if you know Gordon Palm. Shout out Gordon Palm. But Drake is so unbelievably low on his, chart where they're not even snail offense. They're like Find God at the very bottom of Find God, where like you would find like Mississippi Valley State. And it's like, okay.
Nick, there are 364 teams tracked in Ken Palm. Drake and their tempo is 364th.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Dead last.
Yep. And it's it's concerning in that sense because like I went into this thinking I'm with Drake specifically, I don't care about the stats. Ben McCollum's a winner. These guys, like the expectation in their brain of playing in March Madness, they're all seniors. They were all playing D2 with no fans for forever. And they go up, they win 30 to 31 games, whatever it was this year. They win the Missouri Valley. Their coach literally doesn't lose. I mean, he wins everywhere, every season. He's hoisting the trophy, everything. And
they were 30-3. Crazy.
30-3. They beat Vanderbilt in the non-con. They beat Kansas State in the non-con. Like, they are legit great. And then the stats are the only thing that it's so bad. Like, if they were where St. Mary's is, right, from like a pace standpoint, I'd be like so confident. But they're so low on some of these tempo-based charts where it's like, oh my gosh, like am I a fool for having Drake go to the Elite Eight? Maybe I am. But I want to put my faith in like the narrative, the storyline. It's just too good.
Nick, out of these teams in this region, I think Colorado is going to be a very heavy pick on the upset, that 12-5, especially considering that they are the favorite in that game. I like Drake against Missouri. Missouri, they've had times this year where they haven't made shots. And if you don't make shots against Drake, they're going to kill you for it because they play at such a slow pace. And then Kansas, Arkansas, my body is like, Kansas was the preseason #1 team. Like, they have guys. And my brain is like, but Coach Cal, Coach Cal. It's like, who do you think could come out of this region? Because I think in my mind, this might be, for all intents and purposes, like a pretty chalky region for the most part. Like, if it was St. John's, Florida in the Elite Eight, would you be shocked at all?
No. And, I have Florida versus, I can't tell, Sweet 16, it's going to be, I mean, it could be anyone. It could be Memphis, Florida, Maryland, Florida, Colorado State, Florida, Grand Canyon. Literally pick your freaking poison. But say Florida, Maryland, probably what I have right now. And then I have St. John's, Drake. So 1-4, 11-2. Nothing against Texas Tech. I love Grant McCasland. I'm just very much mentally committed to this Drake team. So outside of that, yeah, I kind of agree that it's not going to be that chaotic. Not compared to the
Yep.
South, what I have
Oh,
going
yeah.
on in the South. But I think once we get to the Midwest, you'll see. Like I am very chalky there, very very.
Yep. Last any shot that UConn? There's no shot that UConn repeats, right? They just don't have the team.
No, because I think if they beat Florida, you would start to hear too much talk about it. You know what I mean? It would start to be like oh my God, like Florida was literally a wagon. Everyone had them in the Final Four, and UConn beat them. They're going back to back. So much money would come in on them, and I
The
think that
story of like the phrase three-peat is actually copyrighted by Pat Riley, and they would have to buy the rights and like yeah.
whatever it is, you would just hear a little bit too much of it, and I think that's kind of where you would hop on like whoever they play next. I think the public would be like, say it's UConn Memphis. I think the public's all over UConn in that scenario, and I'm pretty sure Memphis beat them this year. I can't remember. They were in the Maui together. Yeah, they did. Memphis did beat them.
Yep. Which I like Memphis, Penny Hardaway, that backcourt. They're good. They're fun, but man, what a draw for them. That's a brutal draw.
Well, I think Memphis
right,
is underdogs against anyone, any of the 12s, based on like their Ken Palm rating. You know.
Wow. Fair enough. All right, before we get to the East, home field apparel, obviously March is a phenomenal time to purchase sports gear. I have the Here Come the Irish little dunking leprechaun shirt there. And we are going to do a giveaway. So it will be on my social media here soon. By the time you're listening to this, it will be on there. The link to the bracket challenge. Nick is hosting it, but Home Field has been an awesome sponsor of this podcast. They've given us $100 gift card to give away. So go to our social medias or the link in the description of this video. Enter your bracket pool. It's on ESPN. It's free to enter, and the winner will get a $100 Home Field gift card. But they have all sorts of shit going on. They have a mystery box where it's like 4 shirts that they're all discounted that they're giving out for a really cool price. So go check that out. Home Field Apparel. Use code Nick15 for 15% off your first purchase at Home Field. All right. The East. I hate how much I love some of these teams because I fucking love BYU and I love Wisconsin.
That matchup.
And I love VCU.
It's torture.
And and Duke might be one of the best teams we've seen in terms of the advanced analytics ever. Like I don't know who I love more out of this region. I love everybody. There's a region of love.
Yeah. Well, there's also Mississippi State's in here, so this is
and hate.
Yeah, there's love and hate in here for sure. But yeah, BYU Wisconsin, nightmare fuel to pick that in the round of 32. Not saying VCU can't beat BYU. I think that absolutely could happen. I think BYU is just playing a little too well right now. Like people are going to remember, oh, Duquesne beat BYU last year, but that was Mark Pope's team, and I think this BYU team's better. And that Mark Pope team was not necessarily thriving at the end of the season. This BYU team is thriving just because they lost to Houston by 20. They lost to Houston by 30 earlier in the season. They just can't match up because they're too white and Mormon to battle against freaking Houston and their unbelievable pressure on like just every aspect, right? So but VCU is certainly athletic and they're good defensively, but I would take BYU like in a 71-68. You know, like oh this was close, but BYU wins. Wisconsin BYU nightmare fuel. Literally no idea what to do with that. I just don't know. But I think I could have some fun with Oregon and Arizona because I'm not in love with either of those teams, and I like Akron and Liberty a lot. If you listen to my TikTok videos or my lives, you know that. For a while, Liberty was my favorite 12. They still might be. and Akron probably my favorite 13. So
Yep. And then we have to talk about Duke and their injuries. So John Shire has said that the goal is for Cooper Flagg to play in Friday's game. Now, do I think that happens? No.
no, he's of
I don't
course he
think it
says that.
does. Yeah. I would quite frankly be surprised if he played the first weekend.
Yeah,
Now,
I agree. Well,
Duke's good
there's
enough.
no way that'd be the dumbest thing ever if he played against the 16. Maybe he
Yeah.
dresses for it. Maybe like as a like, oh my God, Duke's down by 6 with 8 minutes left. Flags coming in, you know, like maybe they dress him, but it should. I mean, they're so good without him still. Like you're playing, they're going to be playing who? Like American, probably. Uh,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
team they should
American or
realistically win by 30, and blah blah blah. And then if they play Mississippi State, then it's like whatever, man. Mississippi freaking State. Who cares?
Yep. Don't they have another injury on their team as well?
Malik Brown, I think, dislocated his shoulder, so I'm not sure.
Ooh.
I think that's like not like it's probably going to affect his like shot and whatnot, but I think he's probably fine. Like I don't think he's in any pain. It's just probably like a weird, like can't lift his arm up because there's like a weird knot in his shoulder from dislocating it. Something like that would be my guess.
As somebody who has dislocated their shoulder, being an athlete, no big fucking deal. Yeah, it's real swollen and tight, and it feels weird.
Like you can play defense if you
oh
coming
yeah,
off of that. You know what I mean?
yeah. It just like I would not feel like as in rhythm, especially if it was my shooting shoulder. Like that would be where it would affect me, or like going out and like if you were to defend or like deflect a pass, like your shoulder comes back, that would be where like fuck, that kind of hurt.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I dislocated my shoulder and I came back in. I think I practiced the next day. So
Exactly.
is what it is.
Yeah, I think he's
but I'm tough as fuck. So that being said, Alabama, I don't think Robert Morris is a threat to them at all. I would love to see Alabama and St. Mary's play. Just stylistically, I think that would be really fun because St. Mary's plays at such a slow pace, and Alabama wants to go fucking pedal to the floor. I think that would be a lot of fun. But
I would love to pick St. Mary's there. I really would, just because, like, you know, Grant Nelson, who knows if he's healthy, and it just feels like Alabama made their Final Four last year. Maybe this is just not their year, and St. Mary's kind of due for a Sweet 16 run a little bit. But how can I look at like Alabama versus St. Mary's? How could St. Mary's win that? If Alabama goes up 42-35, I feel like it's wraps. Like it's just how do you come back there, because they're gonna have so many extra possessions. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know.
I do think it would be really fun if they went from St. Mary's to Wisconsin. So going from like the tempo, like the offensive difference going from St. Mary's to Wisconsin, I think would be wild. That game, the total should be like 180, like so high.
Yeah.
So high.
Yep.
But Nick, who are some teams that you could see coming out of this region? Because I like Duke, but if the injuries catch up with them, I think there's potential that they end up not coming out of this region. And I have my not preseason bet, but a futures bet that I placed on Wisconsin to make the Final Four, which I think could happen. So who do you like coming out of here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Duke, Alabama, Wisconsin, and then BYU would be, you know, like tied with Wisconsin there. It's kind of just the winner of that game. I don't know what the spread would be there, but you cannot count out BYU is just light. They're lights out right now. It's crazy. So, but I'm looking at this and I feel pretty confident that it's kind of like the first three teams here. Like Duke, Wisconsin is tentatively my Elite Eight.
Love it. That would make, God damn it, 2015 flashbacks all over again.
I know.
That would be incredible. And then finally, the Midwest, you have Houston, Gonzaga, who that's a nightmare matchup in the round of 32 for Houston. They got to be pissed. Clemson and McNeese, which I don't know if you saw, Tim, who works for Snapback Sports. He's a Clemson grad. He's not happy with that draw. Purdue and High Point, I think, could be an interesting game. Illinois, who's been up and down all year, they get the winner of Xavier, Texas. Kentucky and Troy, UCLA and Utah State, which could be a interesting game, and then Tennessee and Wofford. But Nick, I'm not going to allow you to start anywhere else than Clemson and McNeese. It is Brad Brownell against who is maybe the hottest manager we've seen in sports since Red Lightning of Florida State. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Because I do think this is actually going to be a pretty fun game.
Well, I think it's the largest spread of all the 5-12s, right? Like I believe so. Obviously, Colorado State's favored. UC San Diego's +2. What's Liberty? Is the only question. We just went through that with Oregon.
7.5.
It's tied.
So they're tied.
Yeah. So, in that sense, like Will Wade went to Clemson, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and like I know that they don't practice during Clemson football games. He's like a pretty big fan of Clemson still. So I think he's honestly like, damn it, like I don't want to have to play against Clemson. But there's something to be said there about like you're playing against your team, like you know what I mean? Like, like I can absolutely see McNeese winning. I absolutely can. And because of that, like as a Clemson student or graduate, I'm taking Clemson to the Sweet 16 just because like that'd be crazy for me not to. Like, of course I am, but I'm kind of refusing to put them farther than that. Just because I'm way more wary this year than I was last year with New Mexico. I felt pretty confident because everything was like New Mexico was more people had picked New Mexico last year than Clemson in the first round. It was 53% of all people. And you never see that on ESPN because so many people just fill out the chalk. So it's 53% New Mexico. Like, but this year it's a little different where I think people are kind of on Clemson a little more. People probably going to have them in like a Final Four. You're going to see that where you didn't see that at all last year. And it just worries me. So I can't say I'm confident with this matchup. Not at all. Definitely going to be close in my opinion.
Yep. But I do think it should be a good game. I, for one, will pick Clemson to win that one.
Yeah.
Purdue High Point.
Purdue High Point's tough. That's a tough one.
That's a tough game. I think High Point offensively, very fun. They don't play great defense, but Purdue also does not play great defense. So I think that game is going to be really interesting. Purdue fans are going to have their buttholes puckered a little bit, and rightfully so, especially with how they've closed the season. Didn't finish strong in the Big Ten tournament. Didn't finish strong at the end of the regular season in the Big Ten. So we'll see. Kentucky and Troy. You said Lipscomb was your favorite 14 seed. I think Troy might be my favorite 14 seed. This is a team that's pretty damn good in the Sun Belt. And Kentucky, like, I think Mark Pope is going to be locked the fuck in, basically knowing that the last guy's job was axed because they lost to Oakland in the first round. But that game could be pretty close. Out of all of these potential upsets, though, my favorite in this region is Utah State over UCLA.
Ooh, that's definitely not a popular one.
Mick Cronin has already spent multiple press conferences bitching and moaning about traveling to the East Coast to play in Eastern time zones. They have to do it again. They have to travel. I think Utah State has a legitimate shot to upset UCLA. I think there's a reason that line is 5.5. I love Utah State in the spot.
Yeah,
I think Mick Cronin's made too many excuses.
I have had UCLA kind of penciled in, but I think that's a super valid point. Spread is pretty close. Utah State was like a strong 8-9 seed pretty much throughout the season until the very end when they lost to Colorado State by like 40, just getting kicked around a little bit. So they dropped to a 10. Problem is UCLA, they have like 10 quad one wins. They're one of the better 7 seeds of all time, from a resume standpoint, like from a quad one standpoint. So it's tough to say. I also feel like Tennessee versus UCLA is such a close your eyes and picture it happen game. Like, which sometimes
that game is going to be fucking putrid to watch if it happens. That game, the final score of that game is going to be like 51-47.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe. It's just like,
they're just so good defensively. Both teams are.
There are some matchups out there where it's like Clemson Purdue, for instance, is not one of those like oh, that's 100% going to happen, right? I can see Purdue McNeese, I can see Clemson High Point, I can even see McNeese High Point. But Tennessee UCLA just feels like it's written. It's already happened. So tough in that sense. One thing I want to say, Cody, is in the realm of like your High Point, whatnot, the amount of 1 seeds in their conference that were having kind of Destiny-esque seasons this year, like a High Point, who finally makes the tournament for the first time out of the Big South, like just an unbelievable season. The Huss Bus, the buzz, the fans are buying in so aggressively.
That guy mean mugging. Did you see that shit?
Right? Yeah. So it just like, so there's High Point, but Akron out of the MAC lost 1 game in 2025. They literally ran through the MAC, ran through it. John Grossi, the Akron faithful, that city's a garbage can, but like they are rallying around their college basketball team, and it's electric. It's electric. They have to travel out to Seattle, which is brutal, but it's electric. And then like yeah, McNeese is back after losing by 35 or whatever to Gonzaga. They're back. They have done insane work in the Southland, and it feels like they're like Destiny vibes. It just feels like almost all of the 12s and 13s are like so much better this year than normal. So much better.
I think it's partially because the bubble was weak, but I agree. I agree
Also,
that
there
weren't any
that's in conference tournament.
There were like no bid stealers.
Yeah,
that's
but
the thing.
Like even a team like, what if Miami Ohio beat Akron? Then we're talking about, oh, okay, like Miami Ohio had a good year out of the MAC for sure, but like Akron had this dream season and they get to play in the tournament. All of these teams, these mid majors, UC San Diego, that is a dream season. It's their first eligible year. Drake, the story of Drake is incredible. It just really, like, my gut tells me like, well, nothing's going to change that much from the past, and like picking like more 11s and 12s than I am 5s and 6s, that is fool's gold. Like, you're just falling into the trap. But this year does genuinely feel different. It really does, where 11s, 12s, 13s, these teams are really good. And I think we could see just craziness out of some of these mid majors.
Yep. Looking forward to it. So teams that I love to come out of this region, I'll say it. I fucking love Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga has a great shot to come out of this region. They've made however many straight Sweet 16s, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do it again. Outside of that, there's no, like, Houston, obviously, because they will beat you to fucking death if you cannot stay with them. But outside of that, like, Midwest, just about anybody's ball game, really. I think Tennessee got a great draw for being that 2 seed. Like, if they go, they'll match up in the Elite Eight with, a mix. Like, what? There's just a lot to be happy about if you're a Tennessee fan. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Midwest kind of crazy.
The way I have it now is,
I think I have maybe High Point over Purdue, but outside of that, it's chalk, and then Clemson over High Point. So I think I have 1-5, 3-2. I think Kentucky's going to crush Troy, if I'm being honest, but Illinois, Kentucky is similar to BYU, Wisconsin in the sense that it's like, it's just what version of each team are we going to get? It's God knows what's going to happen in that game. Illinois could lose by 20, or Illinois just plays lights out. Kentucky has no chance. I don't know. I have yet to decide, but I'm pretty chalky so far here, and I think I have Houston, Tennessee, in my Elite Eight in the Midwest, where I don't have as much chalk in some of these other regions.
And I don't hate that. Don't hate it at all. Nick, obviously I don't want to give away your bracket, but if you had to pick a national title, if you had to pick a national champion right now, who is your national champion?
I think Houston's being overlooked the most right now. And I'll always look back to 2015 when it was Kentucky was the number 1 overall seed. They were undefeated. You had Villanova and Wisconsin, who were the number 2 and 3 seeds. And then Duke, who was like 6th in the net, 5th in strength of record, like very well could have been a 2, but they got the last one because there were really 3 1 seeds that everyone was kind of talking about. And then Duke wins it all. And I think Houston right now, with how good Florida looked in the SEC tournament, and obviously Duke and Auburn, Houston feels like they might just detonate on everyone because they are that good. They are that good. They might just cruise, and this was always their year, and everything that happened didn't matter. Florida winning the SEC being so good, none of it mattered. It was always Houston's year, akin to like 2018 Villanova, who just cruised, akin to UConn a couple of years ago, who just cruised. It just feels like that might be the case. So that is a tentative pick of mine.
Love it. Love it. Recency bias is a hell of a drug. I said a long time ago when we had our initial discussion about the AP Top 25 before conference tournament week, I said, there's a chance that Florida might be the best team in the country, and nobody's talking about it. And now they are absolutely getting the respect of potentially being the best team in the country. I like Florida quite a bit. Nick, I'm going to read you in order the teams that have the best odds to win the national title. Stop me when we get to a team that you think absolutely no shot, no way in hell can't win it. Okay. At number 1, Duke, Florida, Auburn, Houston, Tennessee, Bama, Michigan State, St. John's, Texas Tech, Maryland.
I mean, I'll stop you at Texas Tech. I don't think Texas Tech can actually win a natty. Yeah, I think they're great though, but they're a little banged up, and I don't know. I don't think their non-con wasn't very good. Maybe the Big 12 was kind of down this year. I think Texas Tech, in reality, is kind of like a 5 seed who got to a 3 seed, rather than, maybe an Iowa State who was like a 1 seed who fell to a 3 kind of vibe,
Yeah. The seeds in how they have the seeds to win the national title. Your top 4 are your 4-1 seeds. Your next 4 are your 4-2 seeds. And then it's 3, 4, 3, 8. Guess the 8 seed.
Gonzaga.
It is Gonzaga. Plus 5,000. So
they are
better
very high in the net.
The same odds as Arizona, better odds than Wisconsin, Kentucky, Michigan, UConn, Illinois, and Clemson. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only drawback with Houston, right? Is that Gonzaga could beat them. They're going for like a record-setting Sweet 16, 12 appearances in a row, making the Sweet 16. I can so easily see, Houston looks good and they just drop to Gonzaga, and it's like, if they had just beat Gonzaga, they probably would have won it all. But that's a really tough 8 to draw.
Yep, absolutely. All right, it's been fun. This is the best time of the year. Excited to watch all of these games. We will be recording. It'll probably be Mondays. I'll try to get the episodes out as fast as I can. Here is what I ask of you guys. This is a big time in terms of sponsorships and stuff for us. I know Nick posted some of his Southwest content for the SEC. as always, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. But it would be super, super helpful if you guys could just like those sponsored posts. It helps them continue to come in, helps us go to these types of games, talk about them. That way we can continue to give you guys the best content in the world at no cost to you, because God damn it, I swear to God, I will never charge you guys for content. I appreciate it so much. Like and subscribe. And Nick, it's March, man.
March.
It's Christmas. This is the best time of the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We made it. All right.
Peace.
Adios.